Hi there and welcome to TheSimmersNook. My name is Patricia. So today I'm doing the last video of the Renovating Base Game starter houses series, which is a little sad, but also I'm kind of relieved too, because the last one was pretty boring and I don't know, I was feeling like I was getting a little bit tired of this maybe, because I kind of got the hang of it, and you know how this things goes. Like at first it's very complicated, then you get the hang of it, and then it kind of starts to get boring. But I'm actually pretty excited about this last one, and I'm actually recording this little bit of the audio before I start the renovation, which is a little different of what I've been doing before. And this is because I want to give you my first impressions on the house before doing anything. So I've quickly jumped into Agave Pod, which is the last one, and it is on Oasis Spring. I'm actually not as unhappy as I was with the previous houses. Most of them were really dark. This one had a little bit more windows, not a lot, but some. And the distribution of the house for the first time isn't all that crazy. I feel like I could maybe even work with most of the same layout of this house. This doesn't mean that I'm gonna keep it. Right now, what I'm gonna do before starting renovating is I'm gonna kind of look for inspiration for something, because this house kind of looks like a church and it has a lot of things that remind me of a church. And in this case, I'm kind of liking what I see because it's pretty different from the other builds that I've done. It's not similar to any of the ones that we've done before. Most of the desert builds so far have been pretty much on the modern side, and the ones on Willow Creek have been all of them the same structure of house, which is why I think it's been a little bit boring. But yeah, what I'm gonna go and do now before renovating is kind of look for church type of houses. I don't know if something's gonna pop up. What will a house look like if it was like maybe an old church? Because this is the vibes that this lot gives me, and we'll see what pops up and what inspires me. Okay, so I've already really quickly done a mood board. Just in case you're interested, I'm gonna show you a picture on the screen right now on the video. I'm using Pure Ref. I don't use it a lot, but it's really practical sometimes when you want to snap a quick mood board together, because you can directly swipe the images from Pinterest to the mood board and they stick there. All the images you're seeing there are from Pinterest, but here's just the things I was kind of inspired by when looking for church houses, which by the way, they are a thing. I didn't know that. And there are a bunch of things that I'm seeing in this house that I will kind of love to implement in a build. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to do this in this build because we're very limited with budget at all, but I'm definitely keeping the mood board. We never know, we might approach it later differently, especially if you guys are interested after I finish this renovation. Okay, so I finished the renovation. I think it took maybe a little bit over 3 hours. I haven't really counted exactly. I'm quite happy how this turned out. It looks a lot more different probably than the other houses I've renovated in this series, because I had to change a few things to make it look like a church. I also think that I made it a little bit bigger because now the house takes up most of the lot, and before it didn't take as much of the lot. I think in the interior it's not really that much bigger, but as I had to take off a little bit of space to do the outside a little bit. After I finished this recording, I went back into the house and changed a couple of things before the final screenshots. I just had a little like problem there because outside of in the world, in Oasis Spring, the house was over 20k, not a lot, like less than 100. And I went in, deleted a couple of things, and inside the house, technically it was under 20k, but then outside it was over 20k again. So anyway, I didn't want to go in and delete more things, so there's that. So the main structural changes, as you might see, is probably just the main shape and the roofing. I added like a very tall roof and doubled the pieces on the outside to make this sort of shape that reminds you of a church. Then I also added a lot of windows, so it will look a lot more like a church. A lot of windows that I haven't been able to use on other houses because, you know, it will kind of break with the aesthetic of the wall and the houses around it. It was kind of nice to be able to use different things. The same happened on the interior. I was able to use items that I wouldn't have used otherwise. They are also actually not a lot of my taste in items, but they really fit the aesthetic. The problem was that most of them were kind of more expensive, but I'll go a little bit more into that when we go into the interior. About the rest of the exterior, I just kind of wanted to say a little bit more of what I did. I used this like sort of brick with a wood paneling on top. I was in between the wood paneling and the brick, but I kind of decided to go with the brick too because it matched a little bit more what we had before here. In this challenge, I'm kind of trying to keep some of the things from the house before, like if it was a renovation, not like I'm building completely the house again. As for the rest of the exterior, there wasn't much left. Like I feel like the exterior, the front part will be like look a little bit nicer probably. I focused on that, and on the back we barely had any space, but I added a lot of vegetation too. I ended up finding a rock fence on the debug section, so it's free, and I surrounded the back of the place. I also put a couple of debug benches on the front. Again, they're not functional, but it looks nicer, and I didn't have the extra money to put real benches. And yeah, I created like a little area in the front with some rocks, some bushes and all, kind of simple. I realized that although this is still Oasis Spring, the place where we built the other two, the vegetation around this lot is a lot different. Like there's no palm trees or cacti, there's like actual trees. They look a lot more dry, but I was looking around like the lot and there were some bushes with flowers, unlike in the other two lots. So I decided to use that and change the landscaping a little bit in comparison to with the other ones. I made a little space for the door because I felt like that will look good in this type of build, and I opened it up on the sides with this window that looks like a balcony, and it's really nice. I never know where to use it, but at the end of the day I've used it like twice in this builds, which is quite nice. I also added a lot of plants at the door, and I felt like that made the entrance a lot more majestic in a way. I really think that it came along pretty nicely. You will see me play a lot with the windows. I wanted to put bigger windows. Obviously in base game we're a little bit more limited. We will encounter that a lot in this build. As I went through it, I realized that there were some cheaper windows that you could like put together and create like something that looks like a window panel that you will have on a church. Yeah, I tested out a couple others that were more expensive and bigger, but I realized that I was like eating a lot more money. I wish we could size up windows sometimes, because I could have sized one of those up and it will be like a huge, really pretty window, but hey, that's okay. Moving on to the interior, first of all, the layout, of course. I was a little undecisive first because I knew that if this had been a church, I thought that we will have like a little space on the back where we put the big windows, where it will have been some sort of an altar, right? Like even if you haven't been to many churches, you know that even if it's a small one, there's always an altar. So I wanted to do that with platforms. I also did the same in the bathroom because I kind of thought that if you renovated this space, maybe either the bathroom or the dining space that I did on the right side would have been like small rooms where you like maybe the priest changes or something like that. I don't know in other countries, but in like Spain and Portugal churches that I've seen, there's usually a room like that. And that's why I did that structure on the sides. You'll also notice that I'm using all of the things that I barely use in other builds because they're not that much my style, but they fit with this type of build. And sometimes it's also fun to do things like that because they get you out of the comfort zone. So for example, the wallpapers, they're not a lot my style. I feel like they match what would have been like a church, and you've changed a few things here and there. I feel like the layout is a little bit weird, but it also kind of makes sense. If you will renovate a space like that had been something like a church, I think you will end up with a weird layout. It's kind of you make use with what you had before, so it's obviously not going to be perfect, right? And that's what I was going for with this. I obviously left a lot of open space because walls cost money, so you have to like play them to the minimum. I indulged a little bit in like half walls and things like that to decorate a little bit more and create that space. I really like the dining room space, although I wish I could have decorated more because I feel like if I could have added a lot more candles and stuff, it would have been nicer, but we were very limited with money and the items that we had to. I will feel like you will have things reminded of the church to decorate around, and that's my train thought of something in the build. Like you will see there's a bench there, a wooden bench. I don't think like a normal build will have a wooden bench there, but maybe it was a wooden bench that was there from the church. You know, those kind of thoughts came across my mind when I came across certain items. I could have probably have thought about more, but the problem was we were limited in space, budget, and items with base game. And that was fun, but frustrating. And the good thing is I'm kind of satisfied with what I did with what I had. But at the same time, I'm really itching to do this again. So if you like this idea, please let me know. know, because I've saved the mood board that I did for this build because it ended up nothing like it. And I have a ton of ideas of things that I could do with it, and I'm kind of excited. Moving on from the layout to the decoration of the house, it was a little bit of the same that I've just mentioned before, that I felt like kind of excited to try new items, things that I haven't used, but also the problem was that all the items that look a lot more older looking were more expensive. I had to make do with the cheaper counters and the cheaper tables, things like that. So I went on most things for a lot more of a rustic feel. That's why I went for the dark wood inside. I wasn't gonna do that before. Then I realized that a lot of the items weren't, I mean, they're not modern looking, because base game has a lot of items that look a little bit on the older side, but they don't look like church old. I don't know if I'm explaining myself. And you will actually see how sometimes I put down things and then go back and delete them because they were kind of expensive. Usually in these houses I've been using a lot of items that are around like under 100 simoleons, or sometimes they're 50 simoleons, things like that. But then here you put a candle and it was 200, and it seems like very little when you're building. When you're under a budget, eventually all those 200 simoleons items pile up, and you could have put 4 instead of 2. That definitely makes a big difference later. We can't clutter too much because we don't have the money. So if you can put a lot more smaller items, and you can definitely add a lot more clutter later. I'm not gonna lie, I had fun with this build. It's probably because it was like a different sort of concept. I was able to put a couple of bookshelves in the build and also a study space in the room. So I feel like we did a good use of the money despite all of what I'm mentioning. Most of the decoration part came out later when I opened debug. I was able to do a few tricks here and there with a few things that I found to decorate. Like I found this metal fence with a plant that I was able to put in between walls to pretend it was like hanging plants on the windows, and other things like that that I was able to manage with debug objects that definitely made the building a lot better. As the outro of this video, I'm just gonna say that as we're saying goodbye to this series, I will probably not renovate a lot more starter houses for now. I think I'm gonna take some time to do a few things. I also have a few videos pre-recorded to go up after this ones. So I would like to do like challenges or different types of builds for a little bit to change it up a little bit. But eventually I would like to slowly do some other starter houses from other packs. So please, if you see this and if you enjoyed this series, please let me know which ones would you like to see first, like upcoming. I will probably do the same thing as I've did here, only with the base game and maybe the pack of that world that we have the starter house on, I think. But I don't know, let me know. Or let me know if you would like us to see those upcoming ones with no limit on packs. Both of them can be really interesting, to be honest, but let me know what you prefer. Other than that, just saying that this series has been really fun, out of my comfort zone, doing something different. But yeah, if you want me to do any other series, let me know. I'm thinking, I have a huge list of ideas, but right now I'm thinking also maybe a Zodiac series would be fun, but I have to think about how I want to do it. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this series. Please let me know which one was your favorite of this all. I'm torn right now, because there's been a few that I really enjoyed. Aesthetically, I probably like the ones in the desert better, most of them. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and this series overall. I'll see you on the next one next Friday. Bye!